Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to get into a topic. Pam Kirsten actually, Pam, hi, how you doing? Pam actually kind of, I don't, she didn't trick me, but she kind of prompted me into this topic. It was pretty funny. But how does NESARA actually benefit you? And so I was kind of thinking, and we were talking it through because she does more of a podcast. You can actually hear that on Pam Christian's channel. We will. I'll try to show that on the description here. But I did a PowerPoint here that I think might be helpful for a lot of people because I hear this all the time. Like, okay, yeah, I get it from a 40,000 foot level, but what does it do for me? Okay. Now, you might not be in all of these levels here as we bring this up on the screen, but you're going to be in many of these levels. You're going to see yourself in many of these parts here. Okay. I always say, listen, don't think you have to do anything for the QFS. It's not. This is a banking change that they have to do, that a treasury has to do. It has to filter down, and we'll talk about that in a minute. It has to filter down through all the banks. You don't do anything at all. Okay. So let me bring over here on this side of the screen, click on the right area. So number one, and these aren't in particular order of like which one happens first. Okay. It's just I put it in some particular order to kind of give you as a topic. Okay. So the deletion of the Fed, Judy Shelton and many other economists are talking about this. Okay, Andy Schekman is even getting into this conversation. There's nothing else left. Mark Z gets into this. There's nothing else left than deletion of the Fed. But what the heck does that help you, right? Well, when we do that, we delete the fiat currency. The Fed or the Federal Reserve keeps the fiat currency. Now, if you've heard me talk about this a month ago, that President Bukele of El Salvador was doing a beautiful job. There was a little tiny clip, I think it was MJ Truth that talked about this, and then I did a longer piece that went through the processes that he beautifully expounded over a year ago, and right during the strong portion of election season. And basically what he was getting into is how the Fed actually works. I mean that and how the IRS works, which I'll mention in a minute. But basically our economy works because they create more money, and it's not because it does anything else. They just create more money, and that creates this inflation issue. So when we have the gold-backed currency, which is a symbol of what we actually have to do, your money switches back on a one-to-one basis. Okay. And now I know that there's an opposite conversation right now called the Great Taking. That is a ridiculous thing. The Great Taking is what the Great Reset people think. Okay. If we have a Great Taking, we are in the tribulation right now. And yet then you have to actually answer to me, where's the Antichrist? Okay. And therefore you can't actually answer those questions. Okay. We're not in the Great Taking. We are in this circumstance that you see in the situation right now. Okay. Now, when you move into a gold-backed currency, your money instantly becomes more valuable. When we have a more valuable currency for you, that means, excuse me, that means your prices will drop dramatically. Now, what happens, and I'm going to pull this off the screen here because I want you to see what I'm talking about here. When money is worth less, prices go up. This is just how it works, okay? When, by the way, we are at some of the lowest values of our money with that too, ever. But when the value of the money goes up, prices start to drop. Now, which kinds of prices would drop first necessarily? Oops, come on, bring up stage. It would be the soft costs. Soft costs would be things that don't have a actual value. Like, for instance, this is a peppermint oil. This is called from Revive. There's a bottle involved with it. There is, minerals that they have to come up with it. So that has a cost of goods that they have to accomplish to do that, right? Whereas a house has comp values or competitive values. And it goes up in costs only because the comps go up, and so people are willing to pay for it. So then that goes up, or student loans. Excuse me. Colleges go up, or idiot things like health insurances. Okay, so those things are very quick to drop down in value that have, but the other ones that have a harder amount, which you have some cost of goods sold, that's called COGS, those take a little bit longer because what they have to do is have the supply chain and all the other things around it. So for instance, this company called Revive, they would have to see their prices of their cost of goods, all their manufacturing kind of thing, come down as well with that too. So it takes time. When, again, some of that stuff might happen really quickly. And President Trump actually put an executive order out to pop drug prices down. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, drug prices have dropped dramatically down. It's fascinating. I'm watching it as we speak with that too, because there's an artificial thing that they've been screwing with us with that. Okay. Sorry, I was clicking on the wrong area. The next one, the deletion of the IRS. These are part and parcel. It's like they're brothers. They live together and they work together, and when they go together. Okay. So once you have the deletion of the IRS, Americans will have 20 to 30% ish in their own amount every single year. So I was just utilizing, and I was coming up with a average $60,000 of amount that someone makes, and you come up with anything you want to. Okay, so that means $13,000 out of your paycheck, and that was only on a federal level. Okay, I'm not even talking about state. Okay, so if many of you have monies that come out on a state level, that actually comes out too, because that just goes directly to the federal level of IRS. Okay. So I was just taking out just the federal level of that monies. Okay. So when they take out this amount and just taking out at the lower amount, 22K, you're basically, you're coming up at a clean number instead of the take home at 39K. And again, I was coming up with just basic numbers. Again, don't get too sideways on it. Instead of having, monies coming out, you would have maybe 5,000. I mean, you would have nothing coming out. Now, we still probably will see Medicare and Social Security deductions. Okay. So instead of $5,000, there's going to be still some amount coming out of there. But can you imagine what that kind of amount, $1,000 or $1,100 more a month, mean to people? So there's no more harassment of the IRS, no more filing fees, no more worries. Did you get your tax income? There's actually funny TikToks, like, that people will do, and they go, that you file your taxes, and they don't tell you that you filed your taxes incorrectly. And they don't even tell you what the exact number should be until you file it. And they go, oh, that's not enough, right? And it's just ridiculous. I mean, because the rules are always an ever-changing target with it too. That's just how much a tyranny that the IRS creates with that too. And now, again, I've said this actually will include a state and federal taxation with that too. Again, these are just basic numbers. I was just trying to give you an idea with that kind of thing. This will also be deleted with that too. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is the solve of the quantum financial system. It's completely private from the hackers. There's complete privacy that happens out there. We believe that it will be on a trust level, meaning that it will be a trust in and of itself. And you can, when you do have the ability to sign into the real QFS, and you'll find out about it, don't get worried about it. Everyone is going to have one with that too, unless you want to be completely unbanked and just live on cash, which you could do, because there'll be cash that's gold backed. Okay. You could put up to 4 names on there, so you, your wife, your 2 kids or whatever kind of thing. That would be responsible with your particular QFS bank account. So every single bank account will flip into the QFS with that too. It's not a bank account per se. People think about it as a bank account. It's just an accessible conduit. So the bank account that ends in 2222, whatever your bank account ends in, right? Your number is, that will have to be in essence, that's my word there, has to be QFS compliant in that way. Okay. Now, one of the things that have to occur should add credit assets, banking, all these funds, they actually have to have. So one of the things that occurs is that the QFS has been, working with the SWIFT system. Or excuse me, the Fed system has been working with the SWIFT, so that when you move money from credit or any other kinds of things, they move money around. Well, now in the QFS, when this thing comes in, there's going to be a very fast transfer between, a credit card to a bank account or whatever that might be, or bank account to a credit kind of thing. So that, it's going to be very fast. For instance, if you deposit a check, let's say you got a big check, a big bonus check. There's no more holding it in the bank for 10 days. It's going to be there instantaneously with that too. Again, it's not a bank account. It's not a credit card. It's not a loan. This is your money. Okay, this is your money in that bank account. Okay, but don't think of it as a QFS account. Think of it as the bank account is QFS compliant with that too. Again, it's not purchasable. Don't go thinking you're buying this thing. It is not buyable in any way, shape, or form. Every single person's going to have this capability. All of your bank accounts are going to flip. You don't have to do anything with that too. It is a constitutional monetary source. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. We've already kind of mentioned this, but you're also going to have a physical note that is through the Treasury that's going to be easily trackable. There's these little serial numbers on the notes anyway that is easily trackable, so that you can see, that particular $5 Treasury note is tracked back to the Treasury to be able to have a backing of gold in that way. Okay. The debt forgiveness. Now, I just came up with really basic numbers. I just went into Grok, this is one of my AI that I like to utilize, and I just said, what's the average American debt? Okay. And you might say, oh, I don't have this kind of debt. Just did the numbers. Okay. So $264,000 of average mortgage debt, which is 1777, right? A month. Average $6,700 of credit card debt, $195 a month. And that would probably be just to pay your minimums in that way. $38,000 of student loans on average, $507 a month. $24,000 in auto loans, or $480 a month. Now, this is a really weird number because only 9% of the people have a total debt of medical debt, but that would be like $29 a month. So I was just kind of putting it in there. Obviously, some people have more or less of these kinds of numbers with that too. So the total monthly amount, in essence, just by taking these kind of numbers here, is $29.18 a month. Out of a normal $60,000 paycheck, is basically you're spending 75-ish% of your paycheck every single month. That's why people are so close. I mean, how do you come up with other monies to be able to do anything else? How do you pay for your cell phone? How do you pay for, groceries and everything else? It's very, very difficult. That's why people are so close, so tight. They have to pay for school supplies and all kinds of other things that they're coming up with that. Okay. The total amount of debt here in this way is $365,000 of debt that is sidling for people with that too. And through NESARA, it is all these loans, all of these bank loans are forgiven. Now, if you have a bank loan, like I have a loan with my parents, not a bank loan. If I have a loan like I do with my parents, that's not forgiven. You've got to pay your loan back to your parents. There might be some other crazy loans someone has, a loan shark or something. I don't know what that is, but all bank loans from all banking sources are either written off or forgiven. Okay, it doesn't really matter. They're washed away. This is going to be one of the coolest things. So when you add the IRS to this issue on top of a gold-backed currency, you start getting into amazing things. Now, another piece is that we'll have new elections and a voting protection with that too. Now, I did a radio show in the Tulsa area, back in 2020, and they were like, Guy was totally in the COVID thing and in the COVID narrative, and he wanted people to walk in with masks on. I didn't walk in with a mask on. I came into the area, and he was all like, freaking out about the COVID issue with it too. And I started bringing up this QFS voting, and I talked about I just talked about blockchain voting with that too. And he was so fascinated by it. It was not funny with that too. Basically what that is, and Trump's actually intimated it over and over again, an ID-based voting system. So that's only you voting. So what happens is that inside the QFS, you will be the only person voting, which makes what happens is the QFS would be the accessible system in essence. So no more Dominion machines. They can't do anything to hack in because it's a blockchain. And so now we have this blockchain. So any external source, this is one of the cool things. Any external source, especially when we have the QFS from a governmental agency, which will have total transparency. See, if they try to do anything, it's the person that does that kind of thing, they're going to be caught kind of massively with this too. The voter fraud will be deleted because those who have done it, we're going to see with our eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked. That's Psalms 91. These people will be in federal prison for 20 years to life because what they've done is they've had an oath of office. Think about people who are in Congress, city councils, and all these different things who have corrupted our election and voting systems. They will have seen the punishment of the wicked, and it will be so terrifying for them. They will never want to do it. Now, the people that will even try to do it, it will be swift and painful to deal with that. Okay. And the other thing that will come is these two-term offices. What that does, it's going to be all the way down from federal, state, and local levels, okay, with 2 terms without exception. Lobbyists are going to lose their ability to influence the system because there's always like a rotating group of people. It doesn't mean that you don't have lobbyists in different ways. They're going to be influencers, but there's going to be a lot less capability because they can't influence you in different ways. Like they've limited the influences on, for instance, and I want to kind of explain this in a funny way, and I want to explain something that has happened here. So in the sorry, I'm gonna make this a little bit better here for you guys. In the medical realm, they have come in and said, you doctors are influenced by those reps, whether they're drug reps or, in my case, the hearing aid reps, and you're getting undue influences that really mess with you. And for instance, in our field, there was American Academy of Audiology, and they said, and we would get these like $50 gift cards if we would just listen to the manufacturers go through their spiel, right? And so they were all upset. The American Academy of Audiology was totally upset about this. And I would talk to the manufacturers like, why do you do this thing? It's like just to slow you guys down so you would just listen to us. We think of it as an advertising cost, right? And of course we would listen to them. And they were like, you're influenced to buy those hearing aids for that $50 gift card. And I said, you know what? So if I'm influenced in that way, maybe so, then how come you guys are taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from those same hearing aid manufacturers and to do a whole bunch of different things? How come you guys are taking money, but yet I can't take the money because I'm corrupted influences, but you're not corrupted? You see the ethic that is dropped here, that they can't talk to me in that kind of way, and that circumstance. That's where lobbyists are going to lose that capability. When you apply the laws and the rules all the way directly, these people are going to lose their capability. They're going to have the only influence they're going to have is logic capability with it too. Now, someone can move up the ranks from a city council to a mayor to a congresswoman to senate, all the way up and be a president. That's fine. But they could still lose one of the elections and totally be out with that too. Those are realities. But we have 2-term limits per office with that too. Okay. Oops. Clicked in the wrong area. And the last area is just some miscellaneous changes that you'll see. Social Security disability is going to go up, excuse me, dramatically on this. The 3-letter agencies will lose their power. Many of them will just be closed. And just think Doge. Doge has already shown the way of this. They are going to just drop off the map. And many of them, actually, Kash Patel's talked about this, that they're closing out the FBI facility in DC, blanking out the name. And they're just closing out the DC one. So we want to have, the FBI facility maybe in Denver or in Dallas or whatever, in among the people instead of this stuff in DC. How about the DOJ in some other town, in KC, for instance? Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about. There's going to be a deletion of the birth certificate chattel, so they won't be able to utilize your birth certificate. You're not going to get the money back that they've been utilizing, but you're going to have a deletion of that process with that. There's also going to be a real retraining of the judges and lawyers into a constitutional level. In essence, they're going to be scared to offend the Constitution because they're already going to see the punishment of other judges and lawyers who've been offending the Constitution over and over again. Better banking interaction. You're going to see banks have to interact with you. See, they've been the power brokers, and they're going to lose that control because you're in control of your money, and they have to work with you specifically. And so they're going to be scared too because they're going to have a butt whooping too as well. Now, NESARA is for America. NESARA is for each one of the countries. Okay, and I know there's a lot of conversations about Canada becoming the 51st state. Listen, I don't believe that's actually going to happen. But what I really believe is, and listen, if it's really the case, fine. But let's just pick Australia, or let's pick Zimbabwe, okay, or Iraq, or any one of these countries who've been belittled by either one of the 3-letter agencies, or for instance, Congo, who has been just beaten up by either France in their past, or by American places, or other kinds of countries around them, or NGOs who put in these excuse me, horrible rulers around. Once they become sovereign and they're operating on their own. One of the things that happen is all the same kinds of changes will start coming in for them too. So the Congolese will be able to like live on their own, and the people that live there that are from Congo can represent Congo, can do their own things without having to worry about having wars and all this other stuff that's been happening. But they can be sovereign. And so I know a lot of people in Canada thinking about being a part of America. I mean, listen, Canada has never been on her own. I want her to be on her own for the very first time in her full-on history, since she was just a Indian state with just a unrecognized territory with that. We need these countries to be on their own, and that's really a part of this whole thing. Now, again, there's a million different ways we could talk about this, just a whole bunch of different things out there. But many of the other, the last one I'm going to say is constitutional law instead of these fake laws. See, judges and lawyers come up with precedent, right? The prosecuting lawyer says, well, Jones versus Jones 1984 law says this. And then the defense lawyer says, well, in 1972, this judge said that, right? And that's called precedent law. And yet I would say, but what about that law in 1984? Was it constitutional? If it wasn't constitutional, boop, precedent goes right out the door. And that's one of the things that's happening. We've not spent time on the constitutionality of a law. And that's why these judges and lawyers have been full on non-transparent. Because you should be able to look at the Constitution as just a private citizen and walk in there and go, that's not constitutional, Judge. Should not have to listen to that particular idea. And he'd say, you're right. Case dismissed against you with that. That's the thing that we need to see happening with that too. And again, there's so many different things that are out there, so many different ways that we can look at this, but I'm trying to give you an idea of some of the ways that this can happen and make a real difference for your life with that too. Hope it helps you out. Thanks so much.